So Psalm 37, in verse 25 says, I have been young and now am old. I couldn't help tonight when Jonathan said we'll get back on familiar ground, and he sang the old rugged cross. I could hear Hank and Ione behind the pulpit here tonight. Whenever they got a chance to sing together, they sang that one or else In the Garden. That was their two songs that they sang. All right, so Psalm 37, verse 25, I have been young and now am old. Yet have I not seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. When I was a teenager, I think I was, when I was a teenager, several times I went to a camp my uncle had in Ohio. And he had several plaques, like we used to have some around here, and years things have changed since we had them around here, but he had several plaques around the lunchroom wall. And the one I remember most went like this one: only one life 'twill soon be past, only what's done for Christ will last. C.T. Studd said that. Only one life 'twill soon be past. I told my wife, I said, we raised 7 children, and I said we had them, for the most part, till they were 18. And I said, if you said you had 7 children and had them till you're 18, that don't sound like much, but all of a sudden, if you take 18 and divide it by 7, or multiply it by 7, that'll be how many years that I had with children in multiple. And yet, it seems like yesterday when they were born. Why? Because time is not really time, but it's time. That's how we track it. But we don't have time. People say, well, we have time. No, we don't have time. Time has us, but we don't have time. There's no point in time where I can say, okay, stop. Now, don't you move ahead another 2 days. So everybody in this room is faced with time, and especially you younger folks tonight. And I'd say if you're 30 and under, you can understand this tonight, time. Everybody needs to understand what time is. Ecclesiastes chapter 9. Nobody's special. Nobody ever gets more time than anybody else. Everybody gets the same amount of time. You say, well, no, some people die before they're 60, some people die at 30. No, I'm not talking about that. There's 1 minute, there's 60 seconds in 1 minute, 60 minutes in an hour. Everybody gets the same. Have you ever said, boy, I just wish I had more time? Well, you're not going to have it. So you can wish all day for it, but it isn't going to happen. You're going to have exactly what you have. And if you don't do something when you got it, Ecclesiastes 9, look at verse 11. I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, neither yet bread to the wise, nor yet riches to men of understanding, nor yet favor to men of skill. But watch. But time and chance happeneth to them all. In other words, nobody in this room is guaranteed they won't be in a hospital bed tomorrow morning. Time and chance happeneth to all. A man may live a wicked life and be 85 years old. A man may live a godly life and die at 35. Why? Time and chance happeneth to all. Verse 12. For man also knoweth not his time. Who in here can tell me what you're going to do tomorrow? Well, you can tell me what you plan on doing, but you can't tell me what you're going to do because you don't know. Why? You're not there yet. But we try that. Well, I'll tell you what I'm doing tomorrow. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, the Lord willing. That's the way I usually say it. Why? Because if he's not willing, guess what? I'm not doing it. For man also knoweth not his time, as the fishes that are taken in an evil net, and as the birds that are caught in a snare, so are the sons of men snared in an evil time when it falleth suddenly upon them. And you can go on and read. I'm just trying to get you to understand time. Nobody in here has any idea what time they have. You think you got time. Talking with this fellow I visited today. And he told me, he said, it's just about over for me. You find one day and the next day the doctor says, hey, when I was, I said I went to my uncle's camp, I saw that sign. And at that time in my life, I had the same ambitions a lot of young people have. I wanted a girlfriend. So what do you want a girlfriend for? Wasn't that what everybody was doing? Isn't that how we do that? Everybody else is. Yeah. Sometimes you need a girlfriend like you need a hole in the head. Or at least another one. And if you're, of course, a girl, you wanted a boyfriend. And we dressed cool. Some of you don't remember that, but it was some cool dressing we used to do. And he was macho. We did our thing. I assumed that one day when I had done all I wanted to do, I'd get serious about the right thing. Psalm 25. And that's what some young people are doing right here in this church. You're just playing it out. You're thinking when you get done doing whatever it is you're going to do, here's what you're going to do. You don't have any clue why. Because you don't know what the time's going to do. Right. Psalm 25, verse 7. Remember not the sins of my youth, nor my transgressions according to thy mercy. Remember thou me for thy goodness' sake, O Lord. That's the prayer of an old man. That's the prayer of an old woman. Lord, don't remember what I did when I was a kid, please. Amen. Because why? At that time, it seemed like no big deal. And then when you got to be 55 and 60, you suddenly realized it was a big deal. It was a real big deal. Ecclesiastes 8. Ecclesiastes. Interesting book. Ecclesiastes 8, verse 5. Whoso keepeth the commandment shall feel no evil thing, and a wise man's heart discerneth both time and judgment. Because to every purpose there is time and judgment. Therefore the misery of man is great upon him. Why? For he knoweth not that which shall be. For who can tell him when it shall be? Preacher, what should I do? How would I know? You think I should go, how would I know? What man in this room knows what he needs to do? He may have an idea what he needs to do, and he may go to God about what he needs to do, but nobody can tell another man what he needs to do. Why? I don't know what you need to do. I can tell you what God says about what you need to do, but I can't tell you what to do. Why? I have a hard time knowing what I got to do. Why? Because we don't know until it happens. Isn't that the hard thing about it? How many of you ever said this? Man, if I'd have known that, I wouldn't have got out of that side of the bed. If I hadn't known that, I would have just stayed in bed today. Why? Because you had no idea what was going to happen, and when it happened, you had to stayed in bed. But have you ever noticed that doesn't erase it? So the years passed by, and I finally did get things in order, and so here I am. The sad part is I have many years wasted in my youth. And can I tell you, they have no eternal reward? Proverbs 2. talking about time. The man told me, he says, you tell him that's for me. I said, I'll do that. I've often wondered what that's like, and I probably will get my chance. I don't know. I've often wondered what that's like to lay down on your bed and Doc says, 2 weeks. And you realize that all of the time that you had is gone. That's hard to think because you're not there. That's hard to put through your brain because you haven't had to do it. And even if you know somebody else that is, you can't feel for them. You can't feel what they're going through. Proverbs 2, look at verse 17. Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird. That's chapter 1, I'm sorry, verse chapter 2. For which forsaketh the guide of her youth and forgetteth the covenant of God. Let's go back here. Let's go back here to verse 13. Who leave the path of uprightness to walk in the way of darkness, who rejoice to do evil. These are these wicked people. You can get up the first part of the chapter. In the forwardness of the wicked, whose ways are crooked, and they are forward in their paths, to deliver thee from the strange woman, even from the stranger which flattereth with her words, which forsaketh the guide of her youth, and forgetteth the covenant of her God. Why is she doing what she does? Because when she was a youth, she forsook it. And there's nothing more wicked than a person who wants to ruin your life because theirs got ruined. So you want to watch out for people who want you to, come on, do this with me. Come on, what are they trying to do? Ruin your life. My mom always said this, and you know, mamas sometimes are right, sometimes mamas are just old wives' tales. She used to say, Paul, birds of a feather flock together. Well, I didn't realize that the illustration was right before me every day of my life. I just didn't pay any attention to birds, but now I do pay attention to birds because I feed them. And you know what? Birds of a feather. That doesn't mean a blue jay and a sparrow and a ginkgo or whatever they're called are going to be in the same pile. But when they get ready to gather up together and take off, they go together. Why? That's their flock. I saw the sign. I read the sign. And I would be willing to say I believed the sign. But like most folks today, I believe I had lots of time to figure out only one life will soon be past. Only what's done for Christ will last. I just figured I had a lot of time. And can I say that, well, subtract 18 from 75 and you'll know how old I was. And if you want to know the truth, that was yesterday. To the young person that lies ahead for 40 or 50 years, you're not thinking of dying. You're not thinking of the wasted time that's taken place in your life. How long is life? Psalm 39. I should have had a marker board, but I didn't get one out, so don't worry about it. Psalm 39 and verse 5. Behold, thou hast made my days as a handbreadth, and mine age as and my age is as nothing. Do you get that? If you stood before God tonight and told him, look, I'm 70, what would that mean to God? You stood before God and told him, look, I'm 35. What would that mean to God? Who has no ending, no beginning. What does 35 mean to him? What does 50 mean to him? What does 75? What does 130 mean? Matter of fact, if you could live to 900, what would that mean to God? Look at Psalm 44 a minute. Verse 1, we have heard with our ears, O God. Our fathers have told us what work thou didst in their day, in the times of old. I told my wife, I said the other day, I was writing down a date, Brother Gordy, and I thought, well, that doesn't seem very long. It doesn't seem very long. What does 1925 mean? You see, I've lived through the 19s into the 2000s and 22 years into this millennium. And to me, 1941 is 1941. To some people, it's like, what? That's ancient. Because why? Time really is only relative to the moment you're living it. It means nothing 400 years from now. It would mean nothing. If you make it in the history books or anything you've done makes it into history, what does that mean to anybody? They're not even reading history. They don't even care about history. That's why our country's going down the tube, because they don't think history counts. Yeah, we're repeating history. Well, you know, the handbreadth is 4 inches, and every inch in the handbreadth is worth 17.5 years. So if you've got 2 of those inches up, you're at 35 years. See how that goes? If you're 35, 2 of your fingers can go down, 2 of them can stay up. You know what the Psalm says. You don't need to turn here to Psalm 90, verse 10. 70. So if we have 70 minutes in our lives, if you have 60, that's an hour. Your life is gone. You have 10 minutes left. Ten minutes isn't very long unless you're living it. You ever go to the dentist and see how fast time moves? But go in the line when you're shopping and see how short time is. It takes so long to get through that line. Probably not much, probably not more than 5 minutes. But it seemed like 30. Psalm 89. I hope you're perceiving the message. Psalm 89, look at verse 47. Remember how short my time is. Wherefore hast thou made all men in vain? For what man is he that liveth and shall not see death? Shall he deliver his soul from the hand of the grave? Selah. Think on that. Why, a man would like to. If he was dying, he'd like to save his life. He'd like to try it again. Or at least he thinks he would. But you get one chance at it, and that's all you get. You get no more. Now, there are some of us that's gotten a reprieve, but it still amounts to the fact that we're going to live only so long. We didn't gain any years. We lost some memory. So remember how short my life is, Lord. He says, remember, Lord, how short my life is. Think about yours. The Lord says, well, it's kind of like grass. Psalm 103, verse 15, is here today and gone tomorrow. Have you ever said something like this? It seems like just yesterday they were... You don't know how many times over these years, a lot of our people, of course, gone on to heaven. And how many times it seems just like we started. It seems just like they were here. It seems just like they were putting their back into the work that was going on, but they're gone. Because time waits for no man. It's like a shadow, says Psalm 144, verse 4. It fades away as the sun goes down. We're not going to get a second chance to be young again. Now, I've known people that have, got their hair done a certain way and got their new pair of shoes and got a short dress or tight pants or whatever they did, so that, they were 45, but they wanted to act 18. Amen. I've seen them. But you can cut your hair and you can take the wrinkles out of your face and you can do all kinds of stuff, but you're still 46. And you're not going to change that. I mean, they sell this wrinkle cream and stuff to you ladies by the tons. And you buy it, and it takes the wrinkles out of your face for 24 hours, but they come back. So you put some more on because you want to get them crow feet away from your eyes. That's called old age. And it happens to everybody. And I didn't say not that you couldn't fix yourself up. Yes, please fix yourself up. Look at Genesis 8. Grandma? Am I going to have to take your stuff away from you? Genesis 8, verse 21. And the Lord and the Lord smelled a sweet savor, and the Lord said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground any more for man's sake, for the imagination of man's heart is evil from his. Do you know what's going on in the major cities of America? Philadelphia, Detroit, Washington, D.C., Indianapolis, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Wisconsin, and name it, any major city, Dallas, anywhere. It's called smash and grab. And kids by the tons are grabbing hammers and whatever they can get, running in stores and smashing them and taking whatever they want. And because the local DA says, well, unless they steal over so much money, it's just a demeanor. Hang on, it's coming your way. Say, what are you saying? From his youth up, his heart is evil. That's why you have to give yourself to the Lord and have to ask him to help you every day of your life as a young person. Why? On your own, you don't stand a chance. Amen. Remember this, only what's done for Christ will last. There's a pile of stuff in my background that is not done for Christ. Stop and think about this. What have you done for Christ? I'm not talking about what your parents make you do. I'm asking you, what do you do on your own? See, a lot of young people get upset because I had to go to church. I didn't have any choice. You didn't want to? Was that your heart talking or your head talking? If you want to do anything for the Lord, Mama can't do it for you. You got to do it for yourself. Daddy can't do it for you. You got to do it for yourself. If you want to mount anything, you're going to have to determine you're not going to let your evil heart direct your life. Listen to this, Psalm 71:17. O God, thou hast taught me from my youth, and hitherto have I declared thy wondrous works. Your youth, young people, young couples, you need to involve yourself in the Lord's work. Why? Because pretty soon you're going to be old and it'll be later than you think. You have time right now to do and to learn things that will someday be used to the glory of God. Maybe you will be a writer. Say, why is that important? Well, I don't know. Sunday school material is pretty important, don't you think? I'd rather know that a Bible believer wrote my Sunday school material than somebody who thinks they say they are. We need good tracts. We need somebody to write them. We need Sunday school teachers. We need mechanics and doctors and nurses. So you can serve the Lord at any job in the world if you want to. But it has to be a want to. And it will not be easy. Listen, it's not easy serving the Lord in a place where people are supposed to be serving the Lord. So don't expect it to be easy in the world. A lot of them are at you only because they're jealous of the fact that you don't do what they do. Listen to what David said, Psalm 51:5. This is what David said. For thou art my hope, O Lord God. Thou art my trust, watch, from my youth. Do you really trust God at all times? And do you really trust God that He'll do something with your life? Or are you just hoping things will turn out right? God prepares us. He gives us opportunities. I can look back at my life and see the opportunities that was given to me, and I missed them because I was too interested in having fun. Not anything wrong with having fun. Don't get me wrong. You don't want to be, a dry gulch the rest of your life. But boy, there's a time. Ecclesiastes 3, Read it. 10 verses. Read it. There's a time for everything. You've heard the verse, but let me read it to you. Remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth. And youth, what is youth? What is youth? That's what I'm saying. What's youth? I used to think I was old until I was around Mr. Cohn. When he died, he was 92. And I was probably 50 or 60. Youth can be about anything when you're in a mixed multitude. I mean, I'm an old man, but if I get around somebody that's 90, I guess I'm not so old. Maybe it's relative to the situation. So when you say youth, doesn't necessarily mean you're talking to somebody 18 to 20. You could be talking to somebody 35. Turn to Mark 10 a minute. Remember, this message is from me. This message is from Tim. That's what he said. Just passing it on. 10:19. Jesus is talking to this young man that's come to him. He said, thou knowest the commandments. Do not commit adultery. Do not kill. Do not steal. Do not bear false witness. Defraud not. Honor thy father and mother. And he answered and said to him, Master, all these things I have observed from my youth. That's quite testimony. I wonder how many young people can say that. While this young man did not get what he came for, let me remind you that he could look back on his youth and say, why didn't I take that opportunity when I had it? Young people claim to be saved, but their life doesn't look like it. The display of their life doesn't look like they're saved. Didn't say they weren't, it said it just didn't look like it. Maybe all of us need to think about time and the point that we only have what God gives us. And maybe God's been good to me and give me 70 years when I didn't deserve but 40. I don't know, but I'm here tonight. And I want to use whatever time I've got left for Him. Why? Because that's all that time's worth to me. And I don't care who you are here tonight, you don't use your time any better than I do for the most part. We're time wasters for the most part. We don't want to be, we don't mean to be. It's just human nature. Why? Genesis 8:21, it's just in there. It's in our heart. We were born with it. Mark chapter 7, We were born with it. Out of the heart that comes that which defiles a man. You're born with it. You have to fight it. What did Paul say? These are contrary one to the other. It's a daily battle. Young people, you can't get revived and it just stays there. You have to work at that every day. Father, thank you for this time we've had in your word tonight. Help us to realize that time isn't our friend, it's our enemy. It's stealing from us every day. And we need to buy back that time. You said redeem it, that's what you said. So help us to realize that we need to be doing something to just make up for the time we've thrown away. Bless these folks. They came here to get something tonight. I trust they got what they came for and maybe got some more. Well, thank you for it and praise you for it. Be it those that are sick, could not be with us. And be it the line balls or